This is All India Radio. Welcome to the business news program Money Matters. I'm Arjun Chaudhary and with me is my co-anchor in Hindi, Manoj Pathak.
नमस्कार। इस कार्यक्रम में हम शेयर बाजार, कारोबार और अर्थ जगत की ताजा खबरों को लेकर हाजिर हैं। आइए शुरू करते हैं अंग्रेजी में हेडलाइन से।
Benchmark stocks fall, losing gains of the afternoon session amid profit booking in intraday trade. Sensex falls by 74 points, Nifty slips 32 points. Rupee appreciates by 6 paise against the US currency, and global shares hover near a record high after mixed US economic data. And let's have a look at our top story from the Sensex and Nifty. The BSE Sensex and NSE Nifty fell, losing gains of the afternoon session amid profit booking and mixed global cues in intraday trade today. Sensex declined by 74 points of 0.14% to trade at 51,458, and the Nifty index fell by 32 points of 0.21% to 15,141. The broader market at the BSE also slipped. The BSE Mid-Cap Index was down 0.26%, while the BSE Small Cap Index depreciated by 0.12%.
अंतर बैंकिंग विदेशी मुद्रा बाजार में दोपहर कारोबार में $1 की तुलना में रुपया 6 पैसे मजबूत होकर 72 रुपये 80 पैसे के स्तर पर पहुंच गया। उधर दुनिया की 6 प्रमुख मुद्राओं की तुलना में डॉलर की स्थिति दर्शाने वाला सूचकांक अंतर दिवसीय कारोबार में 0.18% मजबूत होकर 90.58 पर पहुंच गया। वैश्विक बाजारों पर ध्यान दें तो वैश्विक बाजारों में सबसे पहले हमें चलना होगा एशियाई शेयर बाजार। चंद्र नववर्ष के उपलक्ष्य में चीन, हांगकांग, दक्षिण कोरिया और सिंगापुर के शेयर बाजार आज बंद रहे। उधर जापान का निक्केई 225 सूचकांक 0.1% घाटे के साथ बंद हुआ। यूरोपीय शेयर बाजार पर ध्यान दें तो समाचार तैयार किए जाने तक एक सीमित दायरे में कारोबार हो रहा था। अंतर दिवसीय कारोबार में लंदन का FTSE 100 और फ्रांस का CAC 40 बिना किसी उतार चढ़ाव के कारोबार कर रहे थे, जबकि जर्मनी का DAX 0.8% ऊपर चल रहा था।
Moving on to the U.S. stock market indices. U.S. stocks traded in a narrow range yesterday after U.S. President Joe Biden said China was poised to eat our lunch, warning that raised concerns. Investors also remain cautious as the market is hovering near record highs on hopes of more stimulus, strong earnings, and an improved outlook for the pandemic. Biden told a group of U.S. senators in a meeting to discuss the need to upgrade U.S. infrastructure that the U.S. must raise its game in the face of the challenge from China. The Dow Jones Industrial Average ended in the red but almost flat. The S&P 500 gained 0.2% and the Nasdaq Composite Index climbed 0.4%. And now we're joined by senior economic journalist Puneet Jain. Puneet, a very warm welcome to you on Money Matters.
Thank you, Arjun.
Well, Puneet, lots happening in the markets, but not the Asian markets if you're not taking into account our Sensex and Nifty, which remained closed because of the Lunar New Year in China. But if you look at the domestic stock market, once again, we are seeing a great deal of volatility. That's gone up by... In fact, it's come down by 3%, while at the same time it's within a range of 20.89 to 23.06. What is this telling you about the market right now in terms of is there a mood to book profits, and will they do that continuously? Will the markets continue to correct?
So, Arjun, markets right now are in a very interesting phase because there's a lot of consolidation happening, and what we is that a lot of retail investors are very cautious. So we see large-scale redemptions from mutual funds. Even retail people at large are not very enthusiastic to enter the market at valuations. On the other hand, we find foreign investors and institutional investors, they are quite bullish in the market. So they have been buyers. Retail investors have not been willing to spend too much. So my guess is that market is in a consolidation phase. And I think once this is over in the next couple of weeks, then we might see some kind of big moves either side.
पुनीत, आप कह रहे हैं कि बाजार जो है वो कंसोलिडेशन के मूड में दिख रहा है। इसमें जो छोटे निवेशक हैं, खासतौर से जबकि विदेशी संस्थागत निवेशक या घरेलू संस्थागत निवेशक बुलिश ट्रेंड की ओर जा रहे हैं, उसमें घरेलू जो निवेशक हैं उनका रुझान किस दिशा में जाना चाहिए?
देखिए, जो है उनको लॉन्ग टर्म पर्सपेक्टिव के हिसाब से शेयर्स में इन्वेस्ट करते रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि यदि हम देखें कि अगले 1 वर्ष या 2 वर्ष का पर्सपेक्टिव लें तो अभी मुझे लगता है कि मार्केट्स ने और ऊपर जाना है, क्योंकि इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ बेहतर होगी, जो मैक्रो इकोनॉमिक सिचुएशन है वो बेहतर होगी। तो मुझे उम्मीद है कि आने वाले 1 या 2 वर्ष इक्विटी लगते रहेंगे। अभी लेकिन शॉर्ट टर्म में अगर हम कहें तो थोड़ी अनसर्टिनिटी है, थोड़ा करेक्शन हो सकती है, तो उससे घबराएं नहीं। और मैं ये कहूंगा कि वो धीरे धीरे इन्वेस्ट करें, एक झटके में कोई बहुत बड़ा इन्वेस्टमेंट ना करें, पर स्मॉल स्टेप्स इफ दे कीप इन्वेस्टिंग एंड ग्रेजुअली इन्वेस्ट करेंगे तो आने वाले 1 या 2 वर्षों में मुझे पूरी उम्मीद है कि उनको बेहतर अच्छे रिजल्ट मिलेंगे।
Puneet, the key announcement was the deregulation of fair pricing by the DGCA, the Directorate General of Civil Aviation, and that's also pushed up aviation stocks higher despite what's happening in the markets with profit booking. So if you look at the floor and the ceiling price, that has been raised by 10 to 30% by DGCA. What is the impact likely to be on stocks like SpiceJet, Interglobe Aviation? Not stock-specific question, but really this industry. How important is this policy move on the part of DGCA as a regulator to deregulate pricing to a certain extent?
So, as a concept, it is good that regulators should stay away from pricing any goods or services because they can distort the economic outcomes. But of course, DGCA has given a very wide spectrum of for fares fixed, and depending on demand, the airlines can do it. It is good for airlines, and surprisingly, in the last 1 year when there were lockdowns and the capacity has not been utilized in airlines, we find that airline stocks have done fairly well. In fact, Indigo and all, if you see, the stocks haven't gone down as much as one would have feared. So my own sense is that this deregulation, this policy is quite good for the airlines as well as I think in general for the economy, because then the entire sector will do better in terms of employment, in terms of profitability. I think it fits into the broader policy of the government.
Puneet, very briefly, the operating cost has been the ATF, the aviation turbine fuel. That had gone down during the lockdown period. It's going up again. And DGCA hasn't addressed the capacity issue because now there has to be spacing between passengers whenever they're seated on the airplane. So how do you see this policy affecting the profitability in the coming quarter and for that matter, the valuation of the stock price in the markets?
See, so far, if you see, the profits have been extremely dismal. In fact, they have been reporting huge losses, the airlines. But however, market is not focusing on what is in the immediate future. I think market is looking at the prospects 2 or 3 years down the line, and those appear to be fairly good. And that is one of the reasons why airline stocks have stayed at fairly reasonable levels, and they haven't gone down a lot. So my own sense is that markets are looking at the prospects in next 2 or 3 years rather than immediate earnings of the companies.
बस यहीं पर हम श्रोताओं की ओर से पुनीत आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहेंगे।
धन्यवाद मनोज।
And now moving on to the oil market. Oil prices today dropped for a second day, pulling further back from a 1-year high after OPEC again lowered its demand forecast and the International Energy Agency said the market was still oversupplied. In intraday trade, Brent crude prices were trading around $60 per barrel, while WTI crude prices were around $57.70 per barrel.
आइए चलें सर्राफा बाजार। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजारों में कमजोरी के रुख के बीच घरेलू सर्राफा बाजार में भी दोपहर कारोबार में सोने की चमक फीकी बनी हुई है। मल्टी कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज में सोने का मूल्य अब से कुछ देर पहले 235 रुपए घटकर 47,270 रुपए प्रति 10 ग्राम पर आ गया था। उधर चांदी बिना किसी खास उतार चढ़ाव के अपने पूर्व स्तर 68,550 रुपए प्रति किलो पर टिकी हुई थी। न्यूयॉर्क मर्केंटाइल एक्सचेंज में सोने का मूल्य थोड़ा सा कमजोर होकर $1,813 प्रति औंस पर आ गया।
So clearly, if you look at the precious metals market, Manoj, silver prices have dropped and have corrected marginally.
जी।
And
इसके साथ ही बिल्कुल
and let's have a look at the closing headlines.
घरेलू शेयर बाजार में दोपहर कारोबार में उतार चढ़ाव के बीच अब से कुछ देर पहले मुनाफा वसूली तेज। सेंसेक्स 74 अंक फिसला, निफ्टी 32 अंक नीचे आया। $1 की तुलना में रुपया 6 पैसे मजबूत हुआ और अमेरिका से आए मिले जुले आर्थिक आंकड़ों का निवेशकों पर दिखा अलग अलग असर। रिकॉर्ड ऊंचाई के आसपास वैश्विक शेयर बाजारों में हो रहा है कारोबार।
And that's it in this edition of Money Matters. For now, goodbye.